Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Notes and Quotes podcast. Thank you so much for coming on. If this is your first time here, I'm really happy to have you here and welcome to the community. If you don't enjoy this episode, if you do enjoy this episode, if you want, you can go fill out our listener survey. It helps me figure out how to provide the best possible podcast for you guys because that's who this is for. You can find the listener survey in our show notes, and that would help me out a ton. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into today's episode. I feel like I kind of rushed through that intro. Did that intro feel rushed? I don't know. I think I just say it so many times every week. But anyway, let's go. Il dolce far niente, niksen, and liming. Why am I saying these probably to you random terms today? I often think about these terms, which are actually concepts that essentially mean, well, they're all in the vein of the art of doing nothing. And that's what today's episode is about today. So, the art of doing nothing, just being, just existing for a bit in the world with no purpose or any like to-do list or anything that's plaguing your mind in the moment, just existing and being for that moment. And if you think about it, it's quite a novel thing in our modern go, hyper productive, sensory overload kind of lifestyle that we've really come to normalize. And love, I say love with a grain of salt because it's really toxic, but it's also like addictive and very, as I said before, normalized. And people love the hustle culture. People love the go mentality and just the hyper productivity. But as I've discussed in multiple previous episodes, there's a lot of problems with that. Yeah, that's why the art of doing nothing is quite a novel thing. And that's why I think about these concepts all the time. And that is why we are going to be talking about these three concepts today in this episode about the art of doing nothing. So, what is the quote of the day? How are we starting off this conversation? So, quote of the day comes from none other than Mahatma Gandhi. Also, I recently learned known as Mohandas K. Gandhi. That's also his name. So, I thought that was quite interesting. Anyway, that was a bit of an aside. Quote of the day from Mahatma Gandhi says, "There is more to life than increasing its speed." I love quotes like this that make you stop and think about the quote and the words itself. It's one of those things that you have to read twice or you have to sit and let it internalize for a little bit. There is more to life than increasing its speed. Oh, I love it so much. And it goes right in line with what I just said about the go, hustle culture mentality and trying to just be on all the time. There's more to life than that because the whole premise behind the go mentality is increasing life speed and increasing your gains and increasing your achievements and all of that. Uh, Now, if you want to hear about my personal reflections and opinions on that whole thing and my ongoing crisis that I deal with in terms of the hustle culture and everything, there was an earlier episode, and I'm not doing a self plug, it's just I'm saying it now so that my brain doesn't go on a tangent and talk about this because I've already talked about it. So I'm just saying this out loud to like stop myself from talking about it and also to tell you if you want to go listen to my experiences with it. We did an earlier episode about what was it called? The hidden drug academic validation, and that touches on kind of overworking yourself and defining yourself by your goals and your achievements and all that stuff. Anyway, yes, what a wonderful quote. And then that brings me to the concepts that I said earlier: il dolce far niente, liming, and niksen. If I pronounce these wrong, I'm really sorry. I am unfortunately not bilingual. I'm very boring and I only speak English. Hoping to change that. I'm trying to learn Spanish and French, but I've been trying to learn Spanish and French for like 5 years, so it's not really going that well. Yeah, I love that there are some cultures that value embracing doing nothing so much that they actually have terms that are dedicated to them. And that's why we're going to go through each and every one of them today. When I say each and every one, I mean the three that I mentioned. So let's start with il dolce far niente. It's an Italian phrase that translates to the sweetness of doing nothing. So this Italian term has kind of become a very popular trend on social media right now. I deleted TikTok, so I didn't see it on TikTok, but it originated on TikTok, I think, the trend, and it trickled into Instagram where I saw it, weeks after the trend actually happened. And it intrigued me, just like it intrigues everyone else, just the fact that there's an actual term that translates to the sweetness of doing nothing. And it's a real practice and a real thing in Italian culture that is highly coveted as well. And so I decided, of course, to do some digging on it. And one of the things that I found was this wonderful article from Gabrielle Mostronardo. Also, if I pronounce her last name wrong, I'm so sorry. I'm not good at pronouncing things. But she was talking about embracing this term il dolce far niente for the first time because she is not Italian and she was in Italy for a prolonged period of time and learned about this and then just shared her experiences about what it was like embracing that part of their culture for the first time. So this is what she says. It was the first time in my life that I watched a movie in the morning. Initially, I felt a strange sense that I was doing something wrong, as it contrasted so starkly with the hustle culture I had been immersed in back in Berlin. Every moment of my day was consumed by work or the freelance projects I undertook to make ends meet. However, as I gradually embraced the idea that it's okay to simply exist, to relish in the moment without constantly striving for something, it dawned on me that this is what il dolce far niente truly meant. I made a promise to myself that no matter how hectic life became, I would always make space to savor the sweetness in life. How beautiful is that? I love the first part where she was like, it was the first time in my life that I watched a movie in the morning. I can totally relate to that because when I was in school and I was on summer break, I loved and I hated summer break. I always had a pattern where I would love summer break for 2 weeks and then I would start to like want to go back to school in the structure of school. I know that's so weird and I'm probably so boring, but whatever. It's how I felt because right when summer break starts, it's right after exams and all the stress of that. So you're free of that and you're finally like, oh my gosh, I can finally rest and it's great. But then when you get really comfortable with the rest and you get really comfortable with kind of not doing anything and just lazing around, it starts to feel wrong in a way. At least this is my experience. So sometimes when I would wake up at, I don't know, 11 a.m., and I wouldn't leave my bed, I wouldn't go, brush my teeth or anything, I would just put on a movie, like it felt a bit uncomfortable. And if I was to do that now, because I haven't done that in a long time, because that line made me think, when's the last time that I just woke up and put on a movie? I cannot remember the last time I did that. Because even on the days when I'm not working, like I'm not going into the office or I'm not working on the podcast, it's a weekend or something, and I have nothing ahead of me that day, which is very rare, by the way. I always structure my days to have something to do in them because I have a very negative relationship with downtime, hence this episode. This is why I'm so fascinated by this. But even on the days when I have virtually nothing to do, I still don't ever end up doing nothing. I'll always find something to do. I'll end up doing house chores. I'll end up finding some work that I want to get a head start on. I'll do some like self care task or something. I'm never not doing something. I'm always busy with something. And if I'm not doing something, if I'm just kind of lazing around because I can't think of anything to do, it feels so uncomfortable. And then I do fill that space with going on my phone, scrolling through social media, or just creating work for myself. And I think a lot of people do that. I think that's what has made social media so popular because people want to fill that open space. And when she talks about how she gradually embraced the idea that it's okay to simply exist, I had a moment where, okay, so I moved to England just about a year ago, actually. And I would say maybe like 2, 3 months in, I'm still figuring life out. I've still not got anything really concretely laid out for my life yet. And I decide to go up onto this large field that's outside our neighborhood. You can't walk to the field. I mean, you can walk to the field, but I wasn't really into my walks like I am now, so I wouldn't have walked to the field. I drove, which I know, terrible, but it was past me. I drove there and I had forgotten my phone because I just wanted to go to the field because I like nature in general, but I always go with my phone to listen to music, to, just be on my phone out in nature or something. But I'd forgotten my phone, and then I realized by the time I got there, I'd forgotten my phone, and I wasn't about to go back so I can come back with my phone. That felt pathetic. So I was just sitting in the car existing. And it was the longest time. I think even to date is probably the longest time I'd ever been without my phone. And it was so weird. It was so weird for the first few minutes because it was like I'm not hearing any buzzing from notifications or messages. I'm not checking my phone. I'm not even able to check my phone, and then I'm thinking, "Oh my gosh, but What if somebody has to call me, or what if there's an emergency or something? And then I started to rationalize with myself, I'm out for probably at most 30 minutes. I don't think it's going to be that bad if I'm without my phone for 30 minutes. But it felt like it was. It felt like there could be a crisis happening. And I needed to at least make myself accessible to the world. And it felt like such a rebellious kind of thing to be completely inaccessible, because in reality I was completely inaccessible. This is a wide open field with no one around for ages, and even if there was somebody around, I don't know anybody. I just moved here. No one can contact me. Barely anyone knew that I'd actually left because I was just going to the field. I mean, everyone was busy. I didn't need to tell anyone that I was going. So nobody really knew where I was, and it felt like I was in this global bubble. And I was thinking, oh, okay, this is kind of nice. This is really wonderful, but what do I do with this? I can't really fill this space with music, which is what I would typically do. So I started talking to myself and rationalizing. Then I thought, am I talking to myself because I need to have noise around? So let me challenge myself to just do 5 minutes. And I couldn't time the 5 minutes either. I mean, I could because I was in the car. I could have looked at the clock, but I didn't think about that. I just told myself, let me do a period of time without anything, just having silence. So I closed my eyes and I just existed. And it was hard at first. Time felt like it was moving really, really slowly, but then it became a lot easier. And then I was just kind of in almost a meditative state where I don't know, I was just at peace. And then realizing a lot, like I was realizing how fast my brain is going all the time and how much I do in a day and how I do not actually give myself any mental rest regularly. And it was a very positive experience that sadly I haven't actually done since then, and that was ages ago. And I will admit that I've kind of seeped back into the hustle culture mentality a bit, which I'm trying to acknowledge and break myself out of again, but it's not easy. But this concept of the sweetness of doing nothing is really more than a concept, but it's actually a practice. And Gabrielle Mastronardo goes on in her article to say that the term il dolce far niente actually transcends the English translation, which happens a lot with, other language terms and stuff, especially if you have like idioms or something. You can't really translate things exactly as they are meant in the language. But that's what happens with Il Dolce Far Niente. So she said that through countless conversations with Italians, I have come to understand that Il Dolce Far Niente transcends a literal translation. It embodies a unique approach to life, one that embraces the sweetness found in every moment. It's not merely about idleness, but rather a mindset that allows one to savor even the smallest experiences. Oh my gosh, I can't tell you how much I love that. I really love that. And I would like to say that in terms of that, because I was talking previously about like just idleness and doing nothing. But with this one, with the sweetness of doing nothing, but that's not really what it means. I think with its actual meaning in the Italian sense of what she just described, I would like to say that I try my best to do that as most I can by just appreciating all of the small moments in life. Even if it's terrible, even if it's bad, there's some moments that it's hard to appreciate. Like if you got into a car accident, it's hard to appreciate you getting into a car accident, obviously. But let's say you're just washing the dishes, or you're just on your commute, or you're just having a regular day at work, or you just had a nice conversation with a friend. All of these things, if you saw like a flock of birds pass by, all of these things are wonderful things that I like to stop and just smile at and appreciate, especially one of the things that really makes me appreciate life is seeing humans interacting with each other, which is why I love people watching. But I went to Bath earlier this week over the weekend, and there was live performances in the streets. There was this one performer who was playing the violin and also tap dancing. Incredibly cool, first of all. And there were these two girls who just got up in the middle of the square and decided to start dancing with each other. And it was one of the girls couldn't really dance that well, so her friend was teaching her the steps and stuff. And I thought that was so beautiful to just be walking by, and everyone else is just sitting around listening to this guy play his violin and tap dance. And those are the kinds of things that I just want to stop and appreciate. And I would like to think that that is my own practice of il dolce far niente. And I really encourage a lot of people to do that too, because it's so incredibly easy to miss moments in life and to just look at your life through the lens of achievements and through the lens of highs and lows. when in reality there's so much middle ground there that you're missing between highs and lows that is, if you really focus on it, equally as beautiful as your highs, because all of them made up together make for kind of a beautiful existence as humans and as in our lives. And I know that sounds very, boo woo and very whatever, but I think it's worth doing. And I really encourage and admire people who do that. Now let's go on to the next concept, which is taking me a little bit close to home. So, liming. Now, when you look up the term liming, you'll find information about how it's a practice used to treat garden soil for acidity, but that's not the type of liming we're talking about today. Liming, in the Caribbean sense, is a completely different practice. Liming is the Caribbean art of socializing without purpose. It's just hanging out with friends, and there's probably rum involved. And you're just hanging out with friends wherever and whenever the vibe feels right. You could be hanging out at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. You could be hanging out 3 a.m. on a Saturday night. It doesn't matter. If the vibe is right, you can go liming. You're just hanging out with your friends. You're just existing together. You're just socializing together. You're not doing things, by the way. You're not going to play pool. You're not going bowling. You're not going to the beach. You could do liming at the beach, but the point is you're just sitting around together, existing with one another. You can talk, you can laugh, Sometimes, you could play a board game or something. It doesn't have to be prescriptive, but the whole premise of it is you're just kind of sitting and hanging out together with no real purpose. And also, just like Il Dolce Far Niente, which I hadn't actually mentioned, but both of these and all three of these you'll find are open to everyone. And what I mean by that is that you don't have to be a certain social class to practice the sweetness of doing nothing or to practice liming. You can do it whenever and whoever you are. It doesn't matter. There's no prescriptions to these things. It's kind of one of those free things in life. I think we have very rare free things in life. Water nowadays isn't even free. This is one of those free things in life that is very, very valuable and extremely beautiful. So it's widely known that the Caribbean culture is kind of a master in the art of doing nothing and just having a very laid back, peaceful, just embracing life for what it is culture. And to a large extent, that is true. I think sometimes it can get a bit harmful and people think that Caribbean people are just lazy, which is just not the case at all. There's definitely hustle culture in the Caribbean as well, let me tell you. But we do have a very strong culture in which we understand how to enjoy life. From liming to carnivals to fetes to appreciating one another, I think that we do that very, very well. And it's a wonderful thing. And it's honestly, I find it quite ironic and at the same time beautiful, considering all the hardships that the Caribbean has faced. But even through all of that, we still know how to make time to appreciate life and to just slow down. And you see it happening once again with everyone, no matter what age group you are as well. I was talking about social class before, but even if you are, I don't know, in your teens or in your 80s, you can practice liming, you can practice the sweetness of doing nothing, you can practice just togetherness and slowing down in life. It's quite an active thing that anyone can do. Okay, let's move on to niksen. Now, niksen is a bit different from the past two. I think it's a different level. And I did touch on it a little bit before, but I think so with Il Dolce Far Niente, it's more so about appreciating all the little moments in life and slowing down intentionally, but kind of just making sure that you are aware of everything that's happening in life on a micro level and appreciating it for what it is. Liming is more of a together practice. Liming is being together with friends and doing virtually nothing and enjoying each other's presence. niksen, while it includes those elements, it's something a little bit different. So, niksen is actually said to mean, in its translation, the art of doing nothing. But what a lot of people say when I was reading online is that niksen is actually very hard to practice. So, I think niksen is more so along the lines of what I was doing in the car in the field, like I mentioned earlier on. And not only is niksen hard to do, but it's also hard to define. Because if you think about it, how do you actually do nothing? You're kind of always doing something, even if you're doing nothing. So, for example, if I was to just sit here and not say anything and just exist, I'm still doing something. I would be sitting, I would be thinking. I'm still always doing something. So, it's hard to actually just do nothing. But Olga Mecking, who was the author of Niksen, Embracing the Dutch Art of Doing Nothing, describes what she thinks it means in her book. And this is what she says: to do nothing without a purpose, not watching a movie, not scrolling through social media, not reading emails. We always have in mind some kind of outcome. When we prepare meals, we think this meal will help me lose weight or make me healthier. If we go for a walk, it has to be part of our 10,000 steps. So we lose that fun of just eating or just walking. So it's about letting go of the outcome. And that makes a lot of sense to me because even with those two examples, I relate to those two examples. Every time I go for my walks, I'm still consistently checking my watch to see how much closer I am to my step goal of that day. When I'm making food, I'm thinking, ooh, this is a bit unhealthy, or oh, this is actually really healthy and this is good. Or if I'm, watching TV on my computer, even that, there is some sort of outcome with that. Like, oh, I'm actually intentionally relaxing so that I can gain energy to go work later or something. There's so many ways in which we put an outcome onto every single thing that we do, that we never really stop to just enjoy the art of doing that thing. So, like she said, if you're walking, just go for a walk. Just walk for as long as you want to walk for and just exist and appreciate the walk. If you're making food, just appreciate the fact that you're making food and eating it. That's something that I'm definitely going to do when I get off of this recording, by the way, because I'm actually hungry. I'm going to go make some food and try not to think about me trying to make it healthier. I'm not going to think about anything. I'm just going to think this is going to be really nice to eat. That's it. I'm just going to enjoy the fact that I'm eating something. Or if you have plants or something and you're taking care of your plants, you're not thinking about when they're going to grow or what crops they're going to give you or something. You're just enjoying the process of watering and tending to your plants. That's it. That's all it is. That's all niksen is. And that one is, I say, a bit more difficult because you have to intentionally really do that. Liming is a bit less intentional because you can just get your friends together and lime subconsciously. You can just kind of do it. A lot of people have limed before. Il dolce far niente, that one is a bit intentional too, but I think more people have done that in the sense that you can go lie on a beach, or if you're on vacation and you're experiencing another culture and it's just beautiful and you just bask in it. That's all il dolce far niente, I think. With niksen, it's very, 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 it seems, intentional, where you have to actively remember to not place an outcome or a goal to the activity that you're taking part in or whatever it is you're doing. You have to intentionally remember to let go. And Olga Mecking also argues that with such busy lives, we as humans subconsciously crave doing nothing. We always feel guilty about doing nothing or zoning out and staring, for instance. But is it really bad? Is it really bad to do nothing? I said this earlier, didn't I? Where every single time that I have a day where I have very little to do or rarely nothing to do, I feel uncomfortable and bad about the fact that I don't have anything to do. Or if I end up zoning out, because sometimes I zone out and I like wake up in the morning, I'll be doing something and then I just start zoning out and then I'll snap back into it and I'll remember, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to be doing things. And then I'll feel bad about the fact that I was zoning out just now. But is that really a bad thing? Is there anything wrong with taking time to do nothing? And because we're so busy, like she said, all of the time, it's like we've got this nothingness deficit that we need to fill. And maybe that's what zoning out is. Maybe that's what having periods of laziness is. Your body just kind of, and your brain rather, I guess, just kind of filling that craving for doing nothing. Obviously, from me, none of this is scientifically backed. I'm just kind of going off on a brain tangent and speculating. But it makes sense, I guess. And I wouldn't be surprised if I was to actually do some research to see if that's scientifically backed or psychologically backed, that it would actually be true. That would be really interesting. But yeah. But my other question is, how do you embrace the sweetness and art of doing nothing? Because, like I said, it's quite a hard thing to do. And it's one thing to think, okay, I have to actively do it, but how do I actively do it? For me, I think, in my opinion, you have to be at peace with yourself, and you have to be actively stopping and embracing the present deliberately. You have to remember to actively stop and embrace it. And when I say being at peace with yourself, you cannot expect to appreciate other things in life if you don't actually appreciate yourself. You cannot be expecting to appreciate external things when you don't appreciate your own internal things. So it's really hard if, in that sense, you're not at peace with yourself, to really be at peace with your surroundings. And it's really easy to sit here and say all of these things, but it's a very, very difficult practice. And I wouldn't shame you. And I don't shame myself when I don't get it the first time. And I revert to normalized practices of going, because that's where I'm at right now. And I'm trying to remind myself of these concepts, and internalize the practices that could actually be really helpful for my mental well being and for my well being in life overall. I think ultimately it's just about accepting your current situation in life, whatever it might be. You might not have your, lots of people, most people I think, don't have their completely ideal life and they haven't met all their goals. But it's just about accepting that this is your reality. And not, it's not about giving up. Like, still achieve and strive for goals. You can still have aspirations. But regardless of whether your current life matches your aspirations, you can still be at peace with where you are right now. Take the blinders off and look around you and appreciate. Oh, I hate that. This sounds so cliche. I was going to say appreciate the journey, but I mean, it's true. Appreciate the journey, appreciate your surroundings, appreciate what's actually actively going on around you. And I know I've been talking for a fairly long time, but I've got a couple more things to say, and then I'm gonna let you guys go get on with the rest of the day, or go listen to another episode, preferably of my podcast if you want. There's so many out already. I mean, you're spoiled for choice. Anyway, yeah, a couple more things. So when I was 16, this sounds like such a random thing to say, but I promise you it connects. When I was 16, I think that's when I started internalizing a lot of life lessons consciously, because when you have life lessons, you internalize throughout your entire life. But I think I started consciously understanding that I was learning life lessons around 16. And there were some that I was learning that I really didn't want to forget. So I started making a list in my notes app, of course, of life lessons. And now I've got, I think, nearly 100 of them that I've just continuously added to. As I'm in my 20s, I've forgotten a little bit about the list, so I haven't added anything recently. But one of the earliest life lessons I learned in my teens was the secret to happiness. I'm not saying that I'm some guru. I'm not saying that I'm like the next monk or whatever. I'm not saying that. But in my estimation, I think I figured out the secret to happiness. And it's all completely based in gratitude. It doesn't have anything to do with how much money you have, or how many friends you have, or what your life is like, or what your income is like, or the number of struggles you may or may not have. It all has to do with gratitude. So being actively and deliberately grateful for every single aspect of your life is crucial to happiness, in my opinion. And I've had a lot of terrible things happen in my life, and it's really hard to be grateful for them, but I'm still grateful for them because it's all come together to lead me to where I am today. And even if I'm in a situation, let's say hypothetically, that I don't like, it doesn't mean that it's the end. There's still good to be had. And I'm grateful for the future. I'm grateful for the lessons that I've learned along the way. I'm grateful for the people that I've interacted with, whether they're good or bad. So you appreciate the small good things, the big good things, the big bad things, and the small bad things. Every aspect you just kind of have to be grateful for. And I found that that is a really good key to happiness. And that is very akin to the practices that we said before. And for people who are really ingrained in the hustle culture mentality and the kind of constant sensory overload where, I didn't even mention this, but we very rarely have moments of silence nowadays. You're either always listening to something, or you always have, like, the TV on, or a podcast on, or music on, or the radio on. There's always something kind of on, or you're hearing like background noise from just life, like the road and traffic and whatever. So for people who are very ingrained with that, and they haven't known anything else but that for a long, long time, this might sound all cynical, and this might sound like ridiculous and stupid, but I found some benefits to share with you. So, the Art of Living Retreat Center says that when you give that particular executive circuit of the brain that is busy thinking, memorizing, processing information, and planning a rest, you trigger the imaginative or creative circuit, birthing new ideas and solutions for previously existing problems. So, it is kind of scientifically backed that liming, the art of doing nothing, the sweetness of doing nothing, has psychological benefits for you, which I'm not really surprised by. I don't think anybody would be surprised by that. It gives you more happiness, less stress, more peace, and I'm really not surprised by it, guys. I'm not surprised by it. This one actually is kind of a shameless self plug. I did mention this and talk fully about this, about how practicing slowness and just appreciating specifically nature and life is really good for you in a previous episode. I think it was called The Power of Nature on Your Psyche. So if you're interested in that, you can go listen to that. But my last thing that I will say before I shut up is there must be a balance. Like I said, you can still have your aspirations, you can still hustle, you can still work really hard, but you have to have a balance with this kind of stuff that we talked about today. It's proven by science also that an active and purposeful life where you're doing things is also healthy and very fulfilling and key to fulfillment in your life. So there should really be a balance between these concepts that we talked about and productivity to create a more healthier and happier life. So what I will do today is give you a challenge. I really want to give you guys a challenge. If you're still here, it means you're actually interested. So why not do the challenge, you know? I want you to note down, and you can share them with me if you want. I would love that. That would be amazing. But you don't have to share them. You can just have them in your notes app as well, or wherever you want to store them. 5 things each day for a week, just 1 week, or you can do it beyond a week if you want. 5 things each day that you're grateful for. It could be anything. Don't think it's too small or too stupid or too big, whatever. 5 things you're grateful for. And then the second part of the challenge is I want you to take a period to spend time with yourself at some point. And this time means that you have no agenda, no goal, no purpose, no to do list, nothing. And you just take that time to spend with yourself. You can decide how long you want it to be. I'm not prescribing a time for you. It could be 5 minutes, it could be 2 hours. I don't know. It's up to you when and what you're capable of doing. But I want you guys to do those 2 things this week and see how it goes. And if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. And if it does, maybe you learn something. And that is it. That's all I have for you guys today. I am going to go because I'm actually quite hungry now. And I'm going to just enjoy the act of just eating and not thinking about anything else. So thank you guys so much for listening. If you want more of the Notes and Quotes podcast, obviously we have more episodes, but you can also go check us out on our socials. We're on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and YouTube, video exclusively on YouTube. That's where you'd be seeing me. And I will see you again next Tuesday. I love you all. And thank you so much for sitting down and spending your time with me today. It's been lovely. And I will see you again, like I said, next Tuesday or on our social platforms if you want. Okay, that's it. Bye.